Okay, I'm just gonna mute everyone. Um, let's get going. I have been struggling with this change in the seasons. I have a very palpable feeling that we have shifted the season into like winter is coming, and um, it gets me every year. It takes me a few days to catch up to like, oh, that's why I've been feeling kind of lackadaisical or just a little bit blue. And I realize it's just, the days are getting shorter and the mornings are dark and the last few mornings have been colder. And there's this yeah, I think it's the what is it? Seasonal affect disorder. Sounds so dramatic, but whatever, the winter blues. So I'm trying to adapt. And one of the ways that I adapt is I've been listening to podcasts by a guy called Brian Cox, Cox. He's a British astrophysicist, and he has these wonderful podcasts that are like 1 to 2 hours, where he just sort of uh, talks about astrophysics and life and the universe and things like that. And there's just something so wonderful about the English accent. And there, here he is talking about, billions of light years and galaxies and black holes and the beginning of the universe, and there's just something really oddly comforting and wonderful about just kind of dropping into this space. Anyway, so I thought today, in the spirit of remembering that, sort of touching into awe or connecting with awe is a really useful strategy when it comes to, if you're feeling kind of down, or you're feeling like just kind of flat. Well, think about really awesome things, and oftentimes that'll snap you out of it. So here's my attempt at bringing you along on this awe journey. So, quick quote here by none other than Albert Einstein: "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science." So that feeling that when you're sort of looking up at the stars and you see the Milky Way and you have this numinous feeling of like, oh my gosh, things are just like, I don't even have words for it. That's a really useful thing to tap into. I think that's one of the reasons ketamine treatments work so well. Okay, so here's my attempt at bringing you guys along on this journey. So this is the Hubble telescope in orbit around the planet, and about 10, 15 years ago, whoever's, decides where this thing, what the telescope is looking at, decided to point it at this patch of the sky. Now, one way that Brian Cox described this is, if you take a grain of salt and you hold it between your fingers and you stretch out your arm, like that's the size of the speck of the sky that that we're looking at. Mathematically, this comes out to 1/32 millionth of the sky. So if you want to map the whole sky the way what they did here with the Hubble telescope, you would have to do this 32 million times right across the whole horizon. So they pointed the telescope at this really dark, uninteresting patch of sky, and over many weeks and months, they got this image. And this image is interesting because well, first off, it's sort of this nondescript. Um, there's nothing in that part of the sky that anyone said, "Oh my gosh, that's a really interesting part of the sky that we ought to look at." It was more interesting because it was so nondescript. And what came back was this image. And in this image, these things that are the shiny objects, they're not stars, they are galaxies. And so, just to give you some context, our Milky Way galaxy consists of about 300 to 400 billion stars. So, every shiny object that you see here, presumably, is something on that order. So, each shiny, sparkly thing here has, hundreds of billions of stars in it. And there, in this image, that this area that they captured contained about 5,500 galaxies. So then you multiply that all out and you look at the entire star, and the sky, we're now talking about trillions of galaxies that contain hundreds of billions of stars. And I'll say one last thing, just that kind of blew my mind, is people that do all this math, they believe that the universe is about a little over 13 billion years old. And the way they measure that is the light that is coming in that we get to see has traveled about 13 billion light years. So one light year is, or one, it takes light 1 second to travel 300,000 kilometers. So if you turned on a switch now, that light would travel around the Earth 7.5 times before, in 1 second before you actually got to see it. So our sun is about 8.5 minutes away, meaning if something happened to the sun, we wouldn't know for another 8.5 minutes. That's how far away it is. And so what we're seeing here is about 14 billion light years away, which means all of the stuff that we're looking at has already changed, and we won't know for another 14 or more billion years before we get a sense of how all of this has morphed. Okay, so I could probably keep going on about this stuff because I enjoy it. So today's session is dedicated to just dropping into the sense of awe and wonder at the mysteriousness that is this galaxy, this vast universe of ours, and yeah, just remembering that we are individual little conscious beings on this planet Earth that sits in the middle of all of this stuff. So let's, let's try that out. So close your eyes. You can start by imagining the the body that you inhabit, consists of cells that are all working together to enable the lungs to breathe, the heart to beat, the brain to think. And here we are in this moment, sitting, breathing, and sensing on planet Earth, spinning around the sun with our fellow 7.5 billion other humans. Depending on where we are in our orbit around the sun, our days get shorter or longer, they get colder or warmer, depending on where we happen to be on this rock. I'm just appreciating how these huge and vast cosmic circumstances affect our mood, our thoughts, our relationships. I know for me, the sense of awe, when I can tap into the vastness of it all, there's something oddly comforting about it. On the one hand, I would think that it would be really unnerving and terrifying. For the most part, for me at least, there's a sense of just comfort with knowing that there's something much bigger directing this whole thing called life. That kind of puts my PG&E bill into context, or calling Verizon and getting stuck on their 800 number phone tree and getting frustrated by it. It just kind of puts a smile on my face to say, yeah, there's bigger things going on than just this. And hopefully that sense of awe or just remembering this grander cosmic perspective. I mean, we still need to pay our PG&E bill, right? We don't want to not pay our parking tickets and all that kind of stuff. But maybe we can do it with just a little more humor and levity, just realizing remembering the bigger picture, and that it literally is a miracle, mysterious, wondrous miracle that we're all here doing this thing that we do. Maybe remembering the grandness of the universe, the space and the time and the distances involved adds a kind of context to the issues that we grapple with on a daily basis. And just to add one more thing to this little story that I told here is, when you do the math on the number of galaxies and how many stars are contained in those galaxies on average, and you multiply that all out by trillions, and then you sort of scratch your head and say, well, what are the odds that we're actually alone, that there aren't other beings out there with a similar capacity to feel compassion and love and kindness and take a deep breath in through the nose, slow out breath through the mouth, just relaxing into this space or these ideas of the expansiveness of it all, and hold the out breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In through the nose, mouth. Just keep pushing the air out. Now hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Come on back. Um, yeah, hope that wasn't too unintended, too far out there. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that sort of helps me recalibrate a sense of context and just perspective on how I'm living my days. So hope that was useful. Take care, everyone.